Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Dropping Down from the Rafters podcast. Today I'm super excited because we've got three of us on screen at one time. I don't know if the internet can handle all this at one time, but once again, joining me as my co-host, Julie Cutler, is in the house.
Hello, Tony. Thank you so much for having me back. I had such a great time just a couple weeks ago when we chatted. We went over the AEW women's division. And so I'm super excited to be back. And joining us today, we have a very special guest, the immaculate Joe Mack. He is one half of the OVW Tag Team Champions. He is one of the Overmen. And he is also one of the stars of the new Netflix docuseries that just debuted this past week. It is called Wrestlers, and it is featuring many of the stars of OVW as well as many of the people that helped put the entire production together. So, Joe, we are super excited to have you here today and kind of get one of the first interviews with you where we can really start to unpack the series. So, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited for you guys all to watch Wrestlers, but I'm really excited to, give you guys the Earl Grey, spill the tea.
That's what we love to hear. I love when we get to spill the tea. So, Tony, you want to go ahead and take it away?
Well, Joe, can I ask you how big those arms are of yours? Because when you put them up, those things are. Wow.
You know what? I'm not like, my biceps are my biggest feature, so.
Wow. Yeah, we can tell.
Yeah.
So I have a ton of questions just from watching the series and also from the perspective of someone who's been behind the scenes at indie shows. I also do ring announcing and live interviewing. So there was a lot of stuff that when I was watching the show, I was looking at that and I was saying, oh, yep, relatable. That all checks out. And I'm sure a lot of other people in the wrestling business kind of felt that way watching this as well. One of the questions that I had for you watching the series was, when you guys were filming, I guess, how long were you filming for? And I can imagine that there was a lot of content that you guys had to get, because seeing as this was a whole series, was there a lot of stuff that you filmed that wasn't on the show? Was there anything that didn't make it onto the show? Or do you feel that the show was a good representation of kind of everything that you guys did in front of the cameras for whatever period of time this captured?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say Greg Whitley, the producer, did an absolutely phenomenal job. He's already won 2 Emmys for Last Chance U and Cheer, and he couldn't have done a better job. But with that being said, there was content from, the beginning of May all the way till the end of, let's say, mid-September. Like, every day they were getting content. And there was a lot of moments that people never saw, So, yeah, there was, like, tons of, like, hours and hours of footage. But, I think he got the best stuff, and he put it all together and told the best story possible.
Was there any moment in particular that they filmed that you wish had made the cut?
I mean, everybody's going to want to get their shit in. They want to get more of their own moments. But specifically for me, I think, Greg captured some of, my personal best moments, one of them being with Gracie. And, so a few, he captured the most important moments, and the other things were really just, fluff.
Yeah, and that kind of segues into my next question, because actually when I was back in high school, we had a reality show come to my high school, my senior year, one of those years. And they had filmed so much content for the show. This was only like a half an hour show that they were filming. And they had to cut down a lot of stuff. And then they kind of picked the people and the narrative that they felt would work best for the show. And I would say that it was accurate to some degree, but they also did kind of manipulate it a little bit to sort of tell the story that they wanted to tell. And so my next question was, in this scenario, they got a lot of content. You guys had multiple episodes, which was great because that means that there's less stuff that gets cut out. I guess my question is, do you feel that what was shown was a pretty accurate representation of what was actually going on? Or were there things that maybe were put together a certain way for entertainment value for the series? Do you feel that there was sort of a story that they decided to focus on, or do you feel like that was a kind of an accurate representation of like what you actually experienced?
That's a great question. I would say 90% of what you saw, let's even say 95% of what you saw was quite accurate. I think a lot of people revealed themselves. Like, you saw the real side of people here. Like, there was no, some people, I would say, tried to, force their way in the show and try to be something they weren't. But for the most part, you're getting what it was. But I can say that, obviously they added to, they added fuel to the fire. Matt Jones they portrayed him more of a heel, but he's not really, to me personally, my own opinion, he's not a bad guy or anything, but I would say it was 95% accurate. People revealed who they were.
Was there any? Go ahead, Julie. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was just going to say that's it. I like that they did it in the format that they did because, like I had mentioned before, I had a reality show at my high school. So the way that they did it was a little bit different because for reality TV, it's like they're trying to find one specific story to sort of like hook people in. Whereas because I think this was more of a documentary format, I appreciate, especially as somebody in the business myself, I appreciate that there was more authenticity to it and that they weren't trying to manipulate it so much to be something that it wasn't.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I guess the major story of the show was trying to keep OVW alive. Revive it type deal. And then you had many mini storylines in between that, the relationships, the struggles, the injuries, the overcoming. Like, it just really showed wrestlers pursuing a dream and the struggles that we all go through. And I guess this, created a whole new level of respect for wrestlers all around the world, because we're all out here chasing a dream, like, throwing ourselves in the water, like we're really risking ourselves. But I hope it just inspired people around the world to pursue their dream and whatever. Yeah.
Now, Joe, we saw a lot of struggles from a couple of people, but not really yours. What are some of the biggest struggles that you've had to face on this journey of professional wrestling?
Personally, I came down here last year just to train with Al Snow. So I'm originally trained by Santino Marella, Anthony Corelli, who was trained at OVW by Rip Rogers and Al Snow. And then I came down here last year originally to train with Al. 2 months in, they started talking about series. And I only had budgeted for 2 months. You guys still there?
Your phone reception is a little weak right now, but we can sort of hear you right now.
Oh, shit.
That's okay. That's
Hold on.
that's the business
Sorry,
of live
guys.
TV.
We good?
Yeah, once Joe gets back.
Joe
Yeah.
Mack is ready to-
Ooh.
I like the smack talk going on
Yeah.
via the internet.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Michael. Yeah, me and him have a cage match coming up. He's a 5-year-old kid.
When's the cage match? When is it so we can mark our calendars and we can watch it?
Anytime, anywhere. Michael's got to, talk
Oh.
to Al about it. Yeah, anytime, anywhere.
All right. I'm expecting
So anyway,
to see match graphics soon.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. So I came down here. They told me about the Netflix series. So financially, I wasn't in a place to stay in Louisville for another 3 months. But I did. I kind of struggled through that. So I stayed here for 6 months. I tore my hamstring. Completely tore my hamstring. I could barely walk. But this is the thing, when you're involved in, TV storylines and, you're getting put in positions, you're going to hide those things as much as possible. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, okay. So, that was one of my struggles, was constantly battling through an injury that was like excruciating. Like, it wasn't just a injury that I can go through. It was like I was in bed and I couldn't get up. And I was fortunate enough to be I was rooming with Shira, one of the stars on the show, and Crixus, and they were really helpful, man. Like, Shira would always be like, "Hey Joe, do you need anything? Do you need ice? Whatever." But that's one of the things that we go through is, like, as wrestlers, is you're like super injured, but the show must go on. So I would say that was like the main struggle for me. Everything else was really a blessing, and I really found my faith. I really found my faith last year because all I had was myself. Like, I'm coming from Canada to Louisville, Kentucky, a place, a whole nother country with nobody that I know. I'm alone, and I'm trying to figure it out. So I would pray. I would pray every single day, and I would ask God if I'm in the right place at the right, should I go back home? I can't even walk. And, I just had my faith in him and that he was guiding me in the right direction. And good things kept coming of it. You just got to, I call it walking in faith. You don't understand what you're going through at the time, but there's a higher purpose to it. And then, I ended up main eventing the big one with Al Snow and Doug Basham, if you guys watched episode 7.
And look at you now. Now you're a Netflix star. Who would have put that on your bingo card for 2023?
Right? Yeah.
So my next question for you is just, with the way the series has really been taking off over the course of these past several days, what has your experience been like as the show starts to gain popularity? There's probably more and more people who are maybe not necessarily like hardcore wrestling fans, but just kind of like more mainstream folks who are going on Netflix and they're bored and they're looking for something to watch. And so they watch your show. Have you gotten like a lot of new social media traction, a lot of new Joe Mack fans? What has that experience been like for you?
I've been, honestly, it's so amazing. I've gotten a lot of great feedback, a lot of amazing messages on Instagram and, social media, just validating, me, and just validating the hard work that I've put in, because everybody knows how passionate and how much I love this. And not only from family, but from new people all around the world, just telling me, hey, for the little parts that I had in the show, I've had people say, "Hey, you're my favorite part of the show," So that has been really, really great. But just got to keep on grinding and stay grounded. A lot of people, I think, in this position would let these type of things go to their head. So I've always told myself, no matter how far I make it or however much traction I get, just got to stay grounded and remember why I started.
Well, speaking of amazing, let's talk about one of the most amazing tag teams in all of professional wrestling right now. A friend to the channel. We love Certified Luke Kurtis. We've got some stuff coming up with him very soon here on Toned In Entertainment once again that we're going to be announcing shortly. But let's talk about the Overmen right now. Your guys' chemistry in the ring.
Yeah.
You guys, honestly, you guys make a bunch of two bad guys that I love to hate, but love to cheer at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got great chemistry, man. Honestly, I walk on the shoulders of giants. I really have great people around me who make me better. Us working with EC3 has been so great. Guys like EC3, Mr. Spectacular, Jesse Goddard, like they're experienced. They've been in this game, and just working with guys like that have elevated myself and Luke, and even Luke, man. He's like, we have fun when we're out there and when we're cutting promos, and it's really amazing. And we're just scratching the surface. We just started our run, a few weeks ago, so I'm excited to see where it goes.
And so, how did were you guys like kind of natural friends backstage, and that was something that evolved into the two of you tagging together? What's the backstory behind the coming to being of the Overmen?
I mean, the backstory, really, we've always had good chemistry. Like, me and Luke have always gotten along from the day that I met him. He's, we get along. But I think Al Snow, he's really, again, I give all the praise to Al Snow. Everything that I am is because of him believing in me and believing in us. He has the belief in his students, his guys, that we can be superstars, and he puts us in positions to win. He puts us in positions to be stars. We just got to go out there and do it. And I think he just had a vision, I guess, of me and Luke really meshing. And, I like the dynamic. Luke's like that, smaller, kind of louder guy, and I'm like the bigger, kind of calmer dude, So there's a good dynamic there. Like, I'm the powerhouse. He's more of the, high flyer.
And I definitely think that it was very smart to put you guys with EC3 as well. In fact, I was just watching one of the backstage promos that I think you shared on your social media not too long ago.
Yeah.
Something that I say all the time when I review AEW content is I love how they use veterans, and they oftentimes pair them with sort of like the younger and up and coming talent as a way to elevate everybody else. And I think that what you guys are doing is yet another great example of that. And so I know that you mentioned a little bit, just how grateful you are to be working with EC3. Can you elaborate a little bit more on sort of what that experience is like and what kind of things you've been able to learn from him so far, just in his involvement in OVW?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say EC3 has been to where a lot of us want to go. He's been to the WWE. He's been Impact World Heavyweight Champion, and now he's currently NWA Heavyweight Champion. And I think he's at the top of his game. And for us to be working with him, he's really just being around him, learning how to be, a true pro. He teaches us how to carry yourself, and just listening. For me, I try not to what's the saying? You got 2 ears and 1 mouth. So I try not to talk too much, and I try to listen when I'm around a guy like EC3 and a guy like, Jesse Goddard, Mr. Spectacular. We've got some great veterans in the locker room, Cash Flow, and again, just being around Al is just amazing because he teaches us all how to be pros, but it's really up to us whether, we can make ourselves superstars or not.
Is there anything from Al Snow that he has taught you or said to you that has really stuck with you?
Yeah. The one thing he's taught me he's taught me like a million things, but the one thing that I'll never, that will always stick with me, that has made me who I am, is it's not about what you do, it's about why you do it. You're not selling the move, you're selling who you are, right? And that's the, if you watch professional wrestling today, you're going to see a lot of guys doing a lot of crazy athletic stuff, which I respect. I absolutely like. That is awesome and really cool. But it doesn't draw an emotional reaction out of the audience. And the thing that Al has taught me is it doesn't matter, if you do those moves, you're trying to sell tickets. You want asses in seats. You want to sell your character, who you are. You want people to come to the show and say, hey, I'm buying a ticket to watch Joe Mack. I'm not buying a ticket to see a 450 splash. And there's nothing against that. Again, I appreciate the athleticism. But, a great example is, back in the day, did you ever say, I want to buy a ticket to watch Steve Austin have a great technical wrestling match? No. You wanted to buy a ticket to watch Stone Cold, crack open a few beers, give somebody the Stone Cold Stunner, and talk his shit. The same thing with guys like The Rock. You know what I mean? Like the larger than life superstars, it didn't matter what they did. You were just there because you loved them. Because you felt that authentic, that the intensity, the authenticity of the character. And like me and Julie were talking about earlier, you can kind of see right through when it's not genuine or it's not an organic thing, and I see a lot of it nowadays, and it kind of bugs me, but I just try to stay in my lane and be the best that I can be. And I'm still developing, but I'm around the right guys to elevate me and take me to the next level.
So kind of jumping off of that, so you had mentioned Stone Cold Steve Austin. You had made some references back to watching wrestling as a fan. So going way back when you were a fan, how did you get into wrestling? How old were you? Who were your inspirations when you were growing up? Who do you feel influenced you to be the Joe Mack that you are today?
I love that question. Well, I've loved professional wrestling since I was literally 2 years old. I was a baby. My eldest sister, who is, I would say, 10 or 11 years older, we would always have it on in the house. So I've been watching it, and I loved it since I was a baby. And literally, I just fell in love with the Attitude Era. That's why it means so much to me, because I know how it made me feel. The guys were so cool. That's why it changed pop culture back in the day. It was cool worldwide. Everybody loved professional wrestling, not just the professional wrestling marks or not just the professional wrestling fans, it was universally loved because there was cool, larger than life characters. With that being said, Stone Cold Steve Austin was obviously my favorite, Everybody from the Attitude Era, The Undertaker, The Rock, Stone Cold, Triple H. And then from like the older like Macho Man was my guy before that. But yeah, it's like a draw between all those guys, but really Stone Cold was probably my top guy.
It's funny you mentioned all that stuff. And when I had Julie on the channel the first time back in January, one of the questions we were talking about the Attitude Era and stuff. And I asked her, will wrestling ever be cool again? Will it reach that pop culture type influence like it did 97 to early 2000s? Joe, do you think it will ever get back to that mainstream attention where we all walked through the malls and had NWO shirts or DX shirts on?
Very, very soon, I believe it will, man. You just Joe Mack's gotta get a few opportunities, I think that's it's always been my goal since I started. One of my goals, at least, was to bring back, the authenticity to it and that realness to it, where you're watching it and you feel the energy, you feel the emotion, you feel like, holy shit, something is about to go down and these guys aren't playing. Even though it's scripted, you still, like, you've bought in, right? So I think it'll happen just at the right time. It'll be soon, though.
I agree with this comment. Independent wrestling is a movement right now. I feel in Joe, because we're probably pretty close in age, I feel like in our time as fans and performers, to me, it seems like independent wrestling today is booming now more than it ever was before. I feel like maybe with social media, I feel like there's a lot more visibility to independent wrestling. I think with having multiple major wrestling companies that are on TV as well, it seems like there's more options than ever in terms of where people can go. And I know that sometimes in the wrestling business, it's like we get a little bit of tribalism, like some people that are very adamantly WWE, some people that are very into having the alternative AEW product. How do you feel about the landscape of wrestling today? I mean, this might be a very complicated question, but how do you feel about the landscape of wrestling today and everything that's going on with all these promotions, AEW, WWE, Impact's picking up more steam than ever, NWA is picking up more steam than ever. We've got indie wrestling, which seems to be booming. How does that speak to you as a performer?
I think there's an audience for everything. Really, there's going to be people who like this AEW, NWA, MLW, whatever, this indie promotion. But with that being said, I'm a little bit of a tribalist, if that's, that's what you called it. When it comes to, like, it's all, like, really, when you want to do a world, like, when you want people who've never watched wrestling to watch wrestling, you've got to be able to tell a story and invoke emotion from the people. So you got to be, like, you got to have stars on the show. You got to have great storytelling. And, that's something that I'm trying to master and that I hold close to my heart. With that being said, do I see that on independent wrestling? Not really. You're gonna watch independent wrestling, and it's gonna be a lot of awesome, crazy stunts. Again, there's an audience for that. But is it gonna, is the father who's just flipping through the channels, is he gonna stop and say, "Hey, this is cool. Like I really like this," or is it gonna inspire kids to like become a hero or pursue his dreams? I don't think so. But I think if you're able to, do it right, then you'll be capable of capturing a greater audience. If that makes sense.
It does. Now, Joe, I cover the independent
we
wrestling
froze.
scene down in Miami. You're kind of freezing. I think Julie's been good. Your connection is a little off. I think we got you there.
Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay.
That's okay. That's the show must go on.
Now, I cover the independent scene down here in Miami, Florida, and I cover a lot of, specifically CCW is one of the main promotions. They're doing just fantastic things in the indie scene. And I'm always making a plea to my friends that will only watch WWE or AEW to please come out to the show. And one of the main themes, or the main theme, I think, in wrestlers is the struggles of OVW with all the amazing talent that you guys have there, putting butts in seats to come and watch the show and to support you guys. What is your plea to somebody who's watching this to come to the show maybe for the first time and watch you guys?
My plea is you got larger than life characters at OVW. You have people who are in shape. You know, the girls are superstars. Hollywood Haley J is a larger than life character, and that's her. You know, we really got guys who can work, and the mastermind Al Snow pulling the strings together to create storylines that people will truly invest in. I don't like right now. Like we haven't had the platform to do so. So hopefully with Netflix, it has given us the platform. It will bring more eyes to OVW to really show the world what we can do and what we're about.
And I have to say, you've mentioned.
I really, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, you've mentioned Al Snow's influence a number of times for very obvious reasons. And I have to say, as somebody watching the show, kind of seeing the behind the scenes, seeing Al Snow's wheels turning, first of all, it reminded me of how much I loved him as a child and what a creative genius he is. But I think also, as somebody else that's in the business, a lot of what he said really made sense to me. For example, you had touched on the point that he made earlier that it's not about what you do, it's about why you're doing it. And we've been talking a lot about storytelling within wrestling and how, when, for example, when I was a child and I started watching wrestling when I was maybe like 6 or 7 years old, at that point, you don't really understand. You don't know a lot of the inner workings of things. You don't necessarily understand the athletic piece of it as much, but you can understand a good story. And so I really appreciate just you highlighting that fact. And something else that I wanted to ask about that you had touched on a little bit earlier, you had mentioned that you had trained up in, was it Toronto, Ontario in Canada? And
Mississauga to be specific.
Okay. And so you had come down here to train with Al Snow. Something that was mentioned in the series to Haley J, it was somebody was asking, how do you get to WWE? And I think that this question doesn't really have a clear answer because I think everyone kind of has their own path. But I'd love to hear a little bit more about just your path in terms of like how you started training, how long you were training for, what sort of led you to come down here and train with Al Snow. If we want to be Joe Mack when we grow up, how do we become Joe Mack?
Well, it ain't easy. So I started easy. So I started late 2018. I'll just tell you my whole story. So growing up, I was always an athlete, in high school. And then after high school, like towards the end of high school, I was getting looked at by universities to play football, but I never really, took school seriously. I was going to go to college, but then I didn't. I ended up, mixing with the wrong crowd. right? So I'm about to tell you why I'm not perfect, you know, and I don't think any other pro wrestler's life is perfect, but everything leads up to the other next thing. So I tried so many different things. I did music. What else did I do? I did acting school. I literally have done every job. My first job, I worked at Victoria's Secret. I worked at, I did construction. I did sales. I've sold cars. I've done it all. And one day, I finally got this great job. It was at a car rental company. And, they send the car home with you. And I was really happy about the job. And like a week in, I reversed out of my driveway and I smashed the car. And, like after that, I quit the job. I'm like, Jesus, like every time I try to do something right, things go wrong. And then I had a conversation with my sister and my next door neighbor. And they're like, Joe, like, what do you really like doing? I told them, like, I like helping people and I like working out. They're like, well, why don't you become a personal trainer? Weird enough, the next day, I get a message from a friend and he goes, hey, Good Life Fitness, which is a gym in Canada, is giving out 1 week free. Go check it out. I said, sure. Okay. So the next day, I walk in and right at the front door, it says hiring personal trainers. I talk to the manager. I get the job right on the spot. And then, I love the job. I love personal training. It gave me a lot of fulfillment. And I'll give you two stories. With that, there was one girl, she had Down syndrome, and I would train her every day. And it was literally the most fulfilling, best thing that I can do, like that made me feel really good. Like just to like see the joy, like to do that. And people would come up to me every day, man. They would like grab me by the shoulder. They'd be like, hey man, you're a superhero. And then I was training this one big fella, and I remember asking him, I was like, hey man, how's your day going? He said, it's going great. How's your day going? And I go, oh man, I'm dying today. And he looked at me and he says, heroes don't die. And I know it's kind of corny, but for me, like it gave me goosebumps because I started to understand the impact that I had on people's life on a small scale, right? Like these people I was interacting with on a daily basis, they were looking at me as a superhero. I was inspiring them with, the way I spoke to them, the way I motivated them and whatnot. And then, fast forward a few weeks later, my dad has a stroke. It was the worst day of my life. Spent all night in the hospital. And then I had to go back to work 2 days later. 2 days later, I'm at work and all of a sudden I see like Elias. You guys remember Elias from WWE? Yes, Elias sir. Walked in, Dana Brooke, the Scott Dawson and his partner. You guys still there?
Yeah, you're freezing a little bit. Yeah, Scott you're freezing a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Scott Dawson and his partner were there. I ended up talking to Scott Dawson for like 30 minutes. He left me tickets for the show. And I was like, fuck it. I want to do, like, I started thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I love inspiring and I love to give to people, but I'm not passionate about making people programs and fucking meal plans and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, you know what? I want to be able to do this through my passion, which has been professional wrestling since I was a kid. And the next day I quit my job. I went to Battle Arts, Santino's gym, and started training. And, first week I got a concussion. I did a drop kick. And I thought, oh, I see it on TV every week. Like, this is easy. But it's not. I landed straight on my face, and I got a concussion. But started training really hard. Anthony Santino just like Al has always believed in me and always seen in my potential and always gave me great opportunities. I started, gaining a lot of momentum. I went to SummerSlam 2019. I got a gig as an extra in WWE. A lot of great moments backstage. I got to interact with guys like Ric Flair, Bret Hart. Shane McMahon was real cool. Paul Heyman. Like, they're really open, and I had great conversations with them. And one of the people that I saw backstage was Scott Dawson. I ran into him. I was like, "Hey man, do you remember me?" He's like, "Yeah, you're the kid from the gym." So like everything kind of came full circle. And then I had a little match before SmackDown taping, and I'm just this new kid. Like, I've been wrestling for 9 months really, and Shane McMahon is right there. I think Roman Reigns was sitting there ringside, so like, no pressure. And then, but I kind of did well, and I guess who was it? Scott Armstrong pulled me aside. He's like, "Hey man, I want to talk to you." He's like, "Look, you look larger than life in there." He asked me how long I've been working. He's like, "Okay, well, you're really green. I want you to keep us updated with your progress, and anytime we're around or nearby, we want you to work with us." So I was like, "Wow, this is great. This is awesome. I have so much momentum." And then the pandemic hit. And in Canada, the pandemic was like, it was obviously crazy all around the world, but here, like, so many restrictions. I couldn't really do anything. I couldn't wrestle. I had no gym. And I was really starting to doubt, if we're even going to live, let alone wrestle again. So, but I kind of took that pandemic to kind of find myself. I even did a 10-day fast, which was real cool. But I took that time to find myself. Things started to open back up again. I started selling cars. I saved a lump sum of money from selling cars. I actually sold 25 cars in my first month, 25 cars in my second month, and like 23 in my third month. And I got top salesman. Like, they've never seen anything like it. So I made a good amount of money, and I took that money and then I invested it in myself. And I asked Anthony Santino, I said, "Hey man, what do you think my next step should be?" And he said, "Maybe go try OVW, go down to OVW." And it's not easy. Like, I've never left home, and I've never left the country really to like go live somewhere else. So it's not just an easy thing to pick your shit up and go somewhere, foreign and, take that risk. But for me, like, I'm like, you know what, this is what I want. So I took that money that I saved, I invested in myself, took myself to Kentucky, and then, yeah, here we are today.
Joe, there were so many great stories in there, but I want to give you so much credit because I think it's the most important thing that any of us can do. Because I hear so many people saying, "What should I invest in?" And they're looking in stocks and they're looking in crypto, they're looking in all this crazy stuff. But I don't think there's anything more important, and I don't think there's anything more rewarding than taking that money and invested it in our own dreams. And I love that.
I love that too. And something that I wanted to ask, just kind of a fun question jumping off of this, because I've been going to OVW since the beginning, and Joe Mack reminds me of Gene Snitsky with his size and power.
Oh, God.
6'7".
Well, size and power, hopefully. But size and power, but hopefully not the looks, brother.
you're much more studlier than Snitsky is. I'll put it down on record for you. Oh, and I think we just lost Joe. He was getting all excited about being a more studlier than Gene Snitsky, and his phone either cut off or died. So I'm not sure right now.
Well, I guess we'll give him a minute and see if we're able to get him back.
Yeah, he has the link to come back. I'm sure he'll be back. That's the thing with the cell phone reception. Sometimes it's not always the most reliable thing.
Especially, so I get like very weird reception in weird places. Like, there's one part of my house where I get very poor reception and it cuts in and out all the time. And it's like, the area where I'd be like sitting and watching TV. And I'm like, this is the area where I'd really like to have reception in my house.
I think Joe's coming back now. Joe is coming
Okay,
back.
cool.
Let me add him back in here.
Okay, perfect. There
All
he
right,
is.
we got Joe. We
Hey
got Joe
guys.
back.
Hey guys. Hey, hold on. Yeah. Is that good? Can you hear me?
You are good. You are good. Well,
Okay.
we were complimenting you so much on Gene Snitsky, the internet could not handle
The
it.
internet broke. You broke the internet.
You broke the internet.
Joe,
Hold on, Julie. 1 second, guys.
Sure.
Fuck, man. Let me.
Yeah, just
We're
give me.
on the road with Joe Mack.
We are on the road. We're traveling with Joe. We're actually doing a real life documentary right now with Joe Mack, and he's not going to punch any babies.
Oh gosh.
No, please, no babies will be punted.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that goes hand in hand with like my storyline right now, but I won't be punching any babies.
Yeah.
Joe, I had a quick question for you. Just jumping off of your whole backstory. This is more of a fun question. Well, it might be more of a fun question, but I know you had mentioned being very connected to your home and just the fact that it's difficult to like pick up your whole life, and for you're moving to a different country, and I think you had mentioned the other day that it was like a 10-hour drive from where you live. And so my question, obviously, like the US and Canada probably have a lot of similarities, just being that they are bordering one another. But are there any sort of like weird culture shocks or differences when you came here? Anything that like took a little bit of getting used to for you, leaving home and sort of like starting fresh here in the US?
That's a great question. Well, when I first came to Louisville, it was definitely a culture shock. A lot of people have, the Southern accents, and, that takes some time to get used to. But, I mean, this is what I've realized, okay? So last year, I came back home to Canada. I'm like, man, the people in Louisville are so much kinder. Like, they have that Southern hospitality. Toronto is like more of a big city. I'm going to walk all over you type of vibe. And I was raving about it. This year, I'm like, okay, well, there's shitty people in Louisville as well. So what I've realized, just being a human being and a people person, is there's good people. Oh, fuck. Am I still there?
We got you.
Coming in and out a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. There's good people and there's shitty people everywhere you go in the world. So that's the one thing that I've realized. And the one thing that will remain is who you are. So like the one thing that won't change is you. So you got to be grounded in who you are, wherever you are, whether it's in Louisville, China, Toronto, India. So that's a lesson that I've learned.
Okay, well, I've got a fun question for Joe. You were talking about the various jobs that you worked, and you mentioned Victoria's Secret. Now, being a man that is 6'9" of perfection, I have to assume that you must have been a good salesman at that job.
Yeah.
It was my first job. I was just in the mall. I was a kid. I was like 16 years old, and I was first. That's like when you're first able to work. And I was applying for jobs all over the mall, and I just gave resumes to every store. And then I got a phone call, like Victoria's Secret. They're like, hey, we want to interview you. I came in, and then I'm like folding panties at 6 a.m. with like 20 girls. So that was my job. I was just the young boy, like folding things and stocking the back, So it wasn't anything crazy.
One thing that you did mention, though, that I thought was very cool, I know you had mentioned acting school, you had mentioned music, personal training. It seems like prior to becoming a wrestler, a lot of these other jobs that you sort of dabbled in, you probably got a lot of useful things out of a lot of these other jobs that work well towards your wrestling career. I mean, when you mention acting school specifically, the first thing that I thought is that's got to be really useful for cutting promos. Are you finding like when you really took the leap of faith to go into wrestling, did you kind of feel like it was a full circle moment for you as well, just in like taking all these different skills that you have and putting them in one place?
Yeah, absolutely. It's wrestling is everything I am and everything that I was ever meant to be. And I've always loved entertaining since I was a kid. Even when I was an athlete, if you came to my high school games, you know, when I would do something, I would always be in the game, but I would love to ignite the audience. I was the guy who brought the energy to the floor, to the court, or to the field. And yeah, those are all things that have helped me. Again, I've been fortunate to be around a lot of great minds. Like my best friends give me great ideas all the time. So yeah, I would say it helps. You know, like the whole promo thing. I would say like when I was doing acting school, when I was doing all those things, I wasn't really focused. That's why I said, you know, I was dabbling with a lot of, you know, friends, but I was like in the party kind of mode where, you know, I wasn't really focused. I was doing acting school, but my mind wasn't there. So, you know what I mean? So, but just like one thing, Al, again, back to Al Snow believing in me. Last year, like I wasn't comfortable with my promo and I would get really nervous. He'd be like, Joe, you're on in 5 minutes. You got to go on TV and cut a fucking promo. And I'd be like, okay. So it's like sink or swim now. And in situations like that, I've always swam.
Yes.
You know, like I've always under pressure, like when I'm just like, okay, here, take the microphone and fucking talk. Like
Yes.
it gives me no time to think about it. And that's when I'm at my best, when I'm natural, when everything is good. But you know, sometimes I used to tend to like overthink, but now like I've really grounded myself and I enjoy doing what I do.
And that's so much of, I think, the wrestling business in general, especially on the indies. A lot of it's just like spur of the moment. Things can change at any time. Okay, we're changing this segment. We're going to have you go out to the ring and cut a promo. Go do it. So, as someone that's been getting into that side of things more, I very much relate on that. And something
Hey,
else,
and can I add to that real quick? It's
absolutely.
so that's one of the beauties and like one of the other things that Al teaches us is to like as a pro, like you want to be able to improvise and call things and call audibles based on fan reactions, based on what makes sense and what feels right. So a lot of guys nowadays in the indies or in professional wrestling tend to call, you know, a lot of things in the back. You know, their whole match and it's like choreographed. And then you go out and it's a fucking dance, but you know, you go out and you do what you know, you're doing one move to the other and it may not make sense anymore because the crowd isn't going along with it or so you have to always be prepared for an audible. You have to be prepared to react, you know.
I think that's a great point. And sort of building off of this, my next question that I wanted to ask you, obviously you're going to be very, very busy for quite a long time coming up because now you're one of the OVW tag team champions and you're on a hot streak right now. And so my next question for you is, I guess, number one, what's next for you in OVW? What's next for the Overmen? And beyond this, do you have any sort of big dreams, bucket list items, things that you want to accomplish that you're able to share with us now? Or is there anything, I'm sure you have some stuff in the vault that you're saying, this is my goal, but I don't want to tell everyone what my goals are yet.
That's a great question. I guess I would, again, going back to what I was saying earlier, I really just try to walk in faith, and I just trust that I'm going to be where I'm supposed to be, and things will fall into place at the right time when it's supposed to happen and whenever I'm ready. I'll give you an example. Like a lot of times in my life, I've thought that I was like ready for things. I was like, oh, I'm so ready. Why aren't I getting this opportunity? But like, you know, fast forward 2 years down the line or 3 years down the line, I look back and I'm like, okay, I was totally not ready for that opportunity, you know? So sometimes when you're going through it, you don't really understand. But once you just start walking in faith and trusting the process, which is a little cliche, so like that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to trust the process, and whatever happens next, I'm just trying to take it day by day and be the best that I can at being, you know, the Overmen right now, and being in the Overmen and trying to climb the mountain at OVW. And you know, whatever comes after that will come. But I would absolutely say that every kid or every person that ever steps into professional wrestling, I'm pretty sure their goal is to get to the WWE and make a living off of what they're doing.
Now, from watching the show Wrestlers, there's obviously a lot of characters in OVW, but there's also a lot of characters that come to the shows as well too. And I'd love to throw this question out and just ask you, what is like the most bizarre, the most weird thing that's ever happened? I've had, again, wrestlers tell me that maybe they tripped over their shoelaces, or that a fan has licked their neck at, you know, at their merch table or something like that. Ray Fury told me that recently. What is just the most? Yeah, he did. He said a fan came over, and this older lady, like a grandma, came over and just licked his neck at
wow, that's cool. I love her confidence.
Yes. So what might be the most just bizarre thing that's happened to you, Joe?
Bizarre? I mean, I've had, like, you know, women slap my ass as I'm walking by, like as I'm going to the ring, you know, they'll slap my butt. But I think the craziest thing that, okay, so this goes back to your earlier question was, what did you say? Things that were left out on the Netflix series. There was a moment where we were doing a house show in some random place in Kentucky, and usually, you know, I mess with the kids and I'll go over to them, and they'll usually back away from me. They'll like run away. But there was this one kid, I went up to him, he just punched me right in the face.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he literally just punched me in the face. I just sold to the back. You know, my coach, Doug Basham, ran after me. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, you shouldn't be doing that. I was like, man, I've been doing that all summer long. Like, I didn't expect this kid to, you know, punch me. He's like, well, you know, we can all get in trouble for that. So it was definitely a lesson. You know, wrestling fans in general, dude, they're just a bunch of characters. So you don't know what you're gonna get, and as a pro, you gotta be good at handling yourself in any situation, and you know how to conduct yourself.
That's such a good point. And that also ties in, I think, to something that was said quite a few times on the series, is that like one misstep from one person, one thing goes wrong, and then that could be a reflection on everybody, whether it's you know, something with a fan, something with a venue. It's really like when you're a part of a company like that, it's like you're a family and you're all you're all very much intertwined. So it's like all for one, one for all.
Hey, sorry, did you just ask me a question?
No,
Yeah.
no. I was just saying, I was like, when you're part of like an OVW or you're part of like a small independent wrestling company, it's very much, I've seen this before, whether it's like an interaction with a fan or whether it's, something relating to the venue and the people that are running the venue. It's like one misstep from one person and, it could be spoiled.
Could be a reflection on all of us.
Exactly. And so I feel like that was something that had been mentioned multiple times throughout the series, and it's very much like everybody's conduct is, it's representative of the company as a whole. And so I guess jumping off of that.
Yeah, so one of the things So one of the things that Al always says is what's the reason we shake each other's hand? You've been in wrestling. You gotta shake everybody's hand when you walk in, when you leave. Why do we shake each other's hands? Because we need each other. Mm-hmm. We can't do this without one another. Like, it's not just a one-man game here. So with that being said, we got to take care of each other, and one of us can ruin it for the rest of us. If you're coming to a show and I'm there, like punching kids, let's just say something crazy, or drinking alcohol before a show and getting in the ring. So now people are like, oh, we don't want to work at that place because it's a hazard, or I'm not bringing my children there because last time my children were there, Joe Mack kicked my child in the head. So that's why we need each other. We all need to conduct ourselves in a professional manner, and because it's a reflection of us as a whole.
And with that being said, that was going to kind of jump into my next question, which ties into the show, because we saw a lot of the inner workings of sort of the backstage environment on the show. And what was that like for you? Like when you came to OVW, it seems like you guys very much have like a family type of atmosphere, especially with veterans like Al Snow, and we have the amazing Maria, who is very motherly towards many of the people on the roster during the show. What was that experience like for you, sort of like walking into OVW, being welcomed into that family, especially as someone in a new country, in a totally new environment?
The truth is, you're probably not welcomed right away. Being a 6'7", good-looking dude,
just a perfect guy all around.
Yeah, right. It's it's some guys. It's not gonna rub some guys the right way if they're not, secure with themselves, and they might see you as a threat. But with that being said, obviously when I came to OVW, there was so many dudes who were like, it wasn't like right from the jump. Obviously from the jump, they're like, okay, who the fuck is this guy? Blah, blah, blah. But as I stuck around and I showed my work ethic and, kind of showed people who I was, they kind of took me in, and there's definitely that family element to the OVW locker room. And like I said, we need one another, and Al is like the father, and we're all like, he's got like 50 of us kids.
And is there anyone that you have not worked with in OVW yet who you're looking to work, or even just in the industry in general, any company? Is there anybody that you haven't had the opportunity to work with yet who you would love to square up with?
That's pretty cool. Obviously I would say, any company, I would say Roman Reigns. I think that's gonna happen one day. I really do. If he sticks around for long enough, I think that's the matchup.
And then
I
what
think
about?
that I was gonna say, I think that was Roman
Hello?
Reigns jumping on his motorcycle
Yeah,
and leaving right now.
here.
when he heard Joe Mack was looking for him, that was the motorcycle taking off. It was Roman Reigns on there.
And then I was going to ask also
what?
within.
I'm so sorry.
I was gonna say
sorry,
that's what
you guys all cut out.
yeah, I was gonna say that's what the motorcycle was. It was Roman Reigns hearing you say that you were coming after him, and he just took off on the motorcycle right now.
Yeah, he just pulled up on me. Yeah, that's how I was like, who the hell is that?
And then within OVW, is there anyone that you haven't faced yet in OVW who's on your radar? Is there anybody you have your eyes on that you're calling out sometime soon?
I would say the two guys. Well, Jesse Goddard for sure. Jesse Goddard, Mr. Spectacular. I think he would be somebody that I would definitely have good chemistry working with.
Yeah, I could see that.
I just think I think it would be a great match. And maybe the other guy would be who I've already wrestled, but I think we've got some unfinished business is Jack Vaughn.
Oh, you know what?
Jack Vaughn. Yeah.
Real quick, while I have it here. There he is. There he is.
Oh, you're stirring the pot right now, Julie.
Yeah, so we'll have to post this video and tag Jack Vaughn and let him know that this is a challenge.
Yeah. And tell him I don't slap my leg when I kick. I'm gonna kick right through his face.
Okay. We'll let him know. We'll post this video. We'll tag Jack Vaughn, the veteran Jack Vaughn, and we'll just have to see what happens.
We'll see. Look at you guys stirring up some shit.
That's what we do best.
That's awesome.
Well, I don't know. Is there anything else, Joe, that we have not touched on that we should know, Joe?
I think you guys came with some good quality questions today. I don't think you guys left out anything. Is there anything you guys think you left out?
Something that I think we kind of finish up every interview with these sort of questions, Tony, but can you tell us, where can we see you next? Where can we find OVW so that all of us can tune in and watch your next match, watch your defense of the OVW Tag Team Championships? So
we're live on TV, Fight TV, every Thursday. Download the app. It's free. 7 p.m. every Thursday. We do our live show. And October, I should know this, but we have a pay-per-view event coming up. Yeah, God, I should really know this.
Well, we'll see it on your social media. Tell us where we can find you on social media, Joe.
Immaculate Joe. So it's Immaculate with a M-A-C-K, Ulit Joe.
For Joe Mack.
Yeah, for Joe Mack, all across Instagram, X or Twitter, and TikTok. I sometimes I'll make a TikTok video here and there.
Oh, what is Joe Mack TikTok about? Do you do like little dance videos?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. I'm going to go subscribe to that right now.
No, my TikTok videos are more comedy, just Joe Mack messing around. Yeah, like to have fun. All right.
Well, thank you.
I was going to say, if I see Joe Mack just dancing around in the kitchen to something, I'm going to lose my mind.
Actually, there might be one of me dancing.
I knew there was one. I knew there had to be one.
I actually don't have a TikTok, but TikTok. Oh my gosh, shows how out of touch with reality I am. I don't have a TikTok account, but I do have my Instagram, and so I think you and I need to do a collab dance.
100%. 100%.
I'll judge it. I'll score the dance. I'm not going to
that
participate in the dance because I would lose
That's
no
the
matter
thing.
what.
I don't think people will portray me as a menacing 6'7" guy anymore after they see me dance.
Oh shoot! So we can't give out the mystique. I don't
Yeah.
know, right?
Nah, I don't know.
Well, Julie, do you have any more questions for Joe this evening, or?
I'm sure I'm going to think of a million more questions for Joe after the fact, but for the sake of time, I will and for the sake of the fact that it's getting dark out where Joe is, I will let him go. But
Yeah.
we will find you on social media. For anybody who's watching, go and find Joe on social media, and you will want to go on Netflix if you have not already and watch the new docuseries Wrestlers that just came out this past week. I have nothing but good things to say about it all around. I think from the perspective of a fan, from the perspective of someone backstage, I think it did a really cool job of just capturing the wrestling industry from a lot of different angles. And hopefully this will create a lot of new OVW fans and a lot of new Joe Mack fans.
Joe, just have one quick question. Do you know if there's any plans to do a second season of Wrestlers with you guys, or was it like a one-shot deal? Or can't you not talk about it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know yet, man. I don't know yet, man. We're hoping for it. Hopefully, you know, if things go well here with season 1, and who knows? I have no idea, man. Like I said, I just show up every day and I perform. I don't know what's next.
Awesome. Well, Julie, where can people follow you at?
So I am mainly on Instagram. I am at the Crown Jewels. Crown is with an E at the end. It's the old English spelling. That's just how we roll. And my next in-person appearances, I will be with the Wrestling Federation of America next month. October 22nd, we will be in Marlborough, Massachusetts. And then October 27th, we will be in Rockland, Massachusetts. So I'm doing ring announcing there. That will be the next place where you'll be able to see me in action.
Well, that was awesome. You doing awesome things this past weekend. We all saw that, and you got cool stuff coming up. Joe, obviously, a lot of people that didn't know about you will definitely know about you now from The Wrestler, the Netflix show. You and Luke Kurtis are killing it. You guys are absolutely amazing together. And speaking of Luke Kurtis, we touched on it earlier, but our next guest here on the Dropping Down from the Rafters podcast, Julie Cutler, will be back with me. We haven't set an official date or time yet, but you need to follow Julie Cutler. You need to follow myself on Instagram, tone.in.entertainment, because that's where we post all of our live streams there. So, Joe, nothing but the best. Julie, thank you again for co-hosting with me. It's always such an awesome time when we have an awesome co-host and an awesome guest like Joe Mack here on the channel.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Definitely. So, guys, if you like interview podcasts like this, make sure you hit that red subscribe button so you can stay tuned in here to Toned In Entertainment for future videos.
Subscribe to the channel. Do it. Go now. Do it now.